Thanks, John. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here today. As the commander of U.S. Central Command, I was the operational commander for the mission against Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. So I'm here to provide additional details on the mission that resulted in his death. I have some prepared remarks, and then I'll take a few questions on the raid at the end. Let's get the first slide, please. As the symbolic founder and self-proclaimed leader of a murderous gang of terrorists that once controlled a large swath of territory in Iraq and Syria, and which committed an untold number of atrocities there and abroad, Baghdadi was a priority target of U.S. Central Command. Baghdadi was the subject of an intense interagency effort to bring him to justice, and that effort significantly advanced recently as we closed in on his whereabouts. As it became clear that we had gained fleeting and actionable intelligence on his hideout, we developed an execution-level plan designed to capture or kill him and started preparing a special operations team for the mission. I initially briefed department leadership on the intelligence and the plan. Last Friday, October the 25th, with the approval of Secretary Esper and Chairman Milley, we then extensively briefed the President on all aspects of the plan and the risks involved in its execution. Next slide, please. The general outline of the mission was a helicopter assault by Special Operations Forces that were pre-staged in Syria, launched against an isolated compound in northwest Syria where Baghdadi was suspected to be hiding. Following the assault, which was designed to capture or kill, the team returned to its staging base. While that concept sounds simple enough, I can assure you that the plan was significantly more complex than that and designed to avoid detection by ISIS and others prior to and during execution, to avoid civilian casualties, and with enough air cover, including armed helicopters, multiple unmanned strike aircraft, and fourth and fifth generation fighters to support and defend the assaulting forces. I will also note that the plan accounted for the assumption that we would find multiple children at the objective. As you will see, we took steps to minimize innocent casualties. With the approval of the President, and with prior contact to Russia and Turkey for the purpose of deconfliction in order to reduce the risk to U.S. forces and prevent any state actors in Syria from miscalculating and interfering with our forces, I ordered the mission to commence from my headquarters in Tampa at around 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday the 26th. Throughout the day, I was in contact with the President and his national security team as they monitored from the White House. Let me have the next slide, please. Here we see the object of the assault, the compound where Baghdadi was hiding. As I noted earlier, this isolated compound was in Idlib province in northwest Syria, approximately 4 miles from the Turkish border. It's an area that we have not traditionally operated in, and roughly a 1-hour helicopter flight from our staging base in Syria. We assessed that he was hiding in Idlib province to avoid the intense pressure that had been put on ISIS and other places in Syria. Once the assault force arrived at the compound, fighters from 2 locations in the vicinity of the compound began firing on U.S. aircraft participating in the assault. These individuals, who we don't assess were affiliated with Baghdadi, but nonetheless demonstrated hostile intent against U.S. forces, were killed by 2 airstrikes from supporting helicopters. Let's run the next video, please. These fighters opened fire on our aircraft, and what you see in the video is the actual response. With the assault force surrounding the compound, we repeatedly urged those inside to come out peacefully. Let's go to the next video, please. So this is a video of the assault force actually closing up to the compound. Those who came out of the building were checked for weapons and explosives and moved away from the immediate area. U.S. forces detained and later released the non-combatants. The group was treated humanely at all times and included 11 children. I want to make it clear that despite the violent nature of the raid and the high-profile nature of this assault, every effort was made to avoid civilian casualties and to protect the children that we suspected would be at the compound. 5 ISIS members inside the compound presented a threat to the force. They did not respond to commands in Arabic to surrender, and they continued to threaten the force. They were then engaged by the raid force and killed. There were 4 women and 1 man. After this engagement, and once established inside the compound, U.S. forces discovered Baghdadi hiding in a tunnel. When capture at the hands of U.S. forces was imminent, Baghdadi detonated a bomb he wore, killing himself and 2 young children that were with him. The number 2 is a change. We originally thought there were 3 children with him, and this is the number we originally reported up the chain of command. We now know the number to be 2 based on subsequent debriefing. A total of 6 ISIS members died on the objective. 4 were women, and there were 2 men, including Baghdadi. This is in addition to the 2 children killed by Baghdadi as he blew himself up. Let me emphasize again that 11 children were protected by the assault force, and 2 men on the objective were detained by the assault force, and they were extracted with the force. After Baghdadi's murder-suicide, our assault force cleared significant debris from the tunnel and secured Baghdadi's remains for DNA identity confirmation, which were flown with the assault force back to the staging base. Following collection of samples for formal DNA analysis, Baghdadi's remains were buried at sea in accordance with the law of armed conflict within 24 hours of his death. While the assault force was securing the remains, they also secured whatever documentation and electronics we could find, which was substantial. The assault force then left the compound and returned to their helicopters with the 2 detainees that I've already mentioned. After our forces were safely off the objective, U.S. forces employed precision standoff munitions to destroy the compound and its contents. Let's go to the next video, please. So what you'll observe are U.S. standoff munitions striking the compound. Those of you that may have seen before and after pictures of the compound, it looks pretty much like a parking lot with large potholes right now. The operation was exquisitely planned and executed. It demonstrates the United States' global reach and our unwavering commitment to destroy ISIS, bring its leaders to justice, and to protect America and others from people like Baghdadi. The mission was a difficult, complex, and precise raid that was executed with the highest level of professionalism and in the finest tradition of the U.S. military. Since there is a significant interest in military working dogs, I wanted to provide a little background information on this fine canine. Next photo, please. And actually, let's go back a moment. Before I actually go to the dog, I would just like to show you the before and after pictures of the raid compound. You can see the way it looked before, and you can see the way it looks, the way it looked afterwards. So it's pretty clear the success of the standoff munitions that we employed to ensure that it would not be a shrine or otherwise memorable in any way. It's just another piece of ground. So let's go to the dog picture. U.S. Special Operation Command military working dogs are critical members of our forces. These animals protect U.S. forces, save civilian lives, separate combatants from non-combatants, and immobilize individuals who express hostile intent. This dog is a 4-year veteran of the SOCOM Canine program and has been a member of approximately 50 combat missions. He was injured by exposed live electrical cables in the tunnel after Baghdadi detonated his vest beneath the compound. I will also note he has been returned to duty. Finally, I would like to address the DNA analysis that was conducted to confirm Baghdadi's identity. The final slide, please. As you can see, the Defense Intelligence Agency conducted the analysis and compared DNA from the remains taken from the compound with an on-file sample taken when Baghdadi was at Camp Bucca prison in Iraq in 2004. The analysis showed a direct match between the samples and produced a level of certainty that the remains belonged to Baghdadi of 1 in 104 septillion, which is certainly beyond a shadow of a doubt.